Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dr. Yuan Hawks. I am the chairwoman of this commission. I look forward to a productive meeting. First, we have flag salute led by Commissioner Kingsburg.
Thank you, Dr. Hawks. Everyone please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairperson Hawks. Commissioner Castro.
Here.
Commissioner DeGrave.
Here.
Commissioner Kingsburg.
Here.
Vice Chair Sizemore is absent, and Chairperson Hawks.
Here.
4 present with 1 excused absence.
Thank you. Now we're going to move one business item up front. That's the budget engagement session from our finance department. That's Director Jennifer Hennessy and her staff.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Let's see here. This is playing. There it goes. All right, so tonight we're going to share with you a little bit about our budget process, give you an update on how our financials look as of the mid-year of fiscal year 24-25, and then we are going to give an update of our debt and liability paydown strategy that we've been undertaking the last few years, and then we have a fun little survey that we're going to do at the end. If any time during the budget presentation you have questions, feel free to just ask away, or there'll be time at the end if you want to ask at the end. So I'm Director of Finance Jennifer Hennessy, and then tonight we're also going to hear from Ward Comers. He's our Assistant Director of Finance. Paula Majors is our Fiscal Services Manager, and Catlin Dorsett is our Management Analyst, who is in charge of coordinating and organizing the bulk of the annual operating budget, and I'm going to turn it over to her to walk you through our budget cycle.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Catlin, as Jennifer stated. I'm going to walk you through our budget process for the annual operating budget and the capital improvement program. So we begin in January with looking at the current year's mid-year update, which means we look at the revenues and expenditures for the current year to see if more or less budget is needed to finish out the rest of the fiscal year. We then create a revenue forecast for the coming fiscal year and create our preliminary 5-year projections, which serve as the baseline for, serve as the foundation for the next year's annual operating budget. In February, Council approves those mid-year budget updates and the department budget requests are submitted. In March, we hold our budget engagement sessions with all the city commissions, much like we're doing this evening, and we hold our meetings with each department to review the requests that they've submitted. In April, we develop the proposed budget books for both annual operating and capital improvement program. In May, the council budget workshop is held to review the proposed budgets, and then at a later date in May, City Council will adopt the final operating and capital budgets. And lastly, in June, the distribution of both the physical and digital adopted budget books. The process for developing our annual operating budget is 3-part. First, we look at economic forecasts, local trends, consultant recommendations, and prior year carryovers to compile our revenue projections. Then we compile all operating expenditures, which consist of personnel requests, operations and maintenance costs, and capital outlay. Capital outlay are non-reoccurring costs not exceeding that exceed $5,000. And lastly, we incorporate the performance measures, which are all tied back to the QLMP, the department narratives, which are each department's goals, accomplishments, and their services, and the fiscal policies to create the final annual operating budget. And there's a photo there of our current year's annual operating budget. The development of the capital improvement program begins with calculating available revenues, updating existing project cost projections, and adding new project requests. Then we link each project to a QLMP core value and add any relevant operations and maintenance costs, such as staffing and ongoing maintenance that may be required for a new facility request. From here, we ensure funding sources are identified for the first year of the project. The CIP is a 5-year projection. However, wherein the first year is adopted and then there is a plan in place for the following 4 years. After that, we add in the supporting documentation such as future projects, the index, etc. And that becomes our capital improvement program budget. And you'll see there a photo of our current CIP book. And that is all for me, so I'm going to kick it over to Ward Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ward Comers, Assistant Finance Director. Now we're going to take a look at the mid-year budget projections, starting with the economic outlook for next fiscal year. We take a look at the national outlook, and we look at many different sources for that. One example is from the University of Michigan as a forecast that we look at. So, for example, they're forecasting that GDP growth is going to dip from 2.8% to 2.1%. So they're anticipating the economy to slow down a little bit. They're expecting unemployment to rise from 4% to 4.4%. They're suggesting that inflation is falling but sticky. So I don't know if you've been to the Waffle House lately or maybe Denny's. You're going to pay an extra 50 cents per egg there. So I'm definitely feeling the sticky inflation. And then consumer sentiment is uncertain, and consumers are worried about inflation. In terms of California, some of the surveys that we look at are from Beacon Economics, for example. Similar to the national forecast, the economy is showing resilience, but challenges loom. They're forecasting state GDP growth to be 2.2% and state unemployment to stay steady at 5.1%. In terms of the city's budget, these are the assumptions that we plug in when we start developing the budget for this year. The statewide sales tax forecast, which is put together by our sales tax consultant, HDL. We've had 2 down sales tax years in a row, so a negative 1.3% and a negative 0.8%. HDL's forecast for next fiscal year is 2.6% growth. And for the budget, we're assuming 2.5% growth. In terms of property tax, our consultant HDL also prepares that. They are projecting 4.58% growth in taxable value, 4.3% growth in property tax VLF, and we're assuming 4% growth for the budget. Gas taxes
Excuse me, can I clarify one thing, Ward?
I'm sorry?
Can I clarify one thing just for my own benefit?
Sure.
On the, as I'm reading it here, the statewide sales tax, you mentioned the 2 down years in a row.
Correct.
And then mentioned some other economic indicators that, are, but then I see 2.5 growth, 2.5% growth. That is in sales tax revenue. Is that correct? It's under
Correct.
sales tax.
That's sales tax,
Okay.
yes.
It just seemed like for a layperson, it seemed like a bit of an incongruency with what you had shared previously, but that's great. I'm glad to see it's expected to go up.
Yeah, so the consultants are basically anticipating that we've reached the bottom right now, and things are going to start picking up. A normal sales tax growth is between 2 and 5% a year, so they're expecting that we go back to trend. But I know if you read the news, you may feel a little bit worried about that. So
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
yeah, so we're assuming 2.5%, and then we'll make adjustments throughout the year as as more data comes in.
Can I follow up on that? So what was the HDL, what were they attributing the down years to?
Basically, high consumer debt, the high cost of vehicles, and then sales tax on gasoline is another big driver. And gas prices have come down recently, so there's less sales tax when the price comes down.
So it wasn't a change in the economic environment in Temecula, like a large business going out of business?
Correct.
or
No, that wasn't the case, yeah.
All right, thank you.
You guys are hitting me with the tough questions already. You're supposed to save that for Jennifer. Okay. So gas taxes, that is forecasted by the California League of Cities. They're anticipating 1.9% growth. We are assuming for the budget that there's 0% growth in building and development permit fees and other fees. And then we've also included a 2.3% cost of living adjustment for personnel, which is contractually obligated through our MOUs. Now to talk about the current fiscal year a little bit. These are the budget projections that went to the City Council on the 11th of February, and they approved our mid-year budget. Not to get in a lot of detail, but we'll just hit kind of the high points here. Sales tax, as we discussed, is down 1%. Property tax is up 3.4%. Property tax in lieu of VLF is up 5%. Franchise fees are up 5%. So the net effect is that we are projecting a mid-year budget decrease in revenues of $220,000. The chart on the right basically gives the story going back several years and then forecasting to the future. And what you want to see is the line, which is the revenues, above the blue bars, which are the expenditures. So this city has run a fiscal surplus, which is what you want, and we continue to project fiscal surpluses going forward. Moving on to the expenditure side of things, for this fiscal year, our expenditures for police are 7.1% increase, fire is up 8.5%. Oh, excuse me, that's the percent, yes, percent change. Administration up 17.7%. So the main thing to point out here is on the pie chart is that public safety is about 53% of the city's budget. And the total is the mid-year expenditure adjustments reflect an increase of about $2 million. That included new employees for fire, contract inspectors and vehicles. And then there's been a large increase in insurance premiums, like I think many people can have felt in their own personal lives. Okay, in terms of fund balance, which is basically how much money we have set aside for reserves, we've got $20 million set aside for economic uncertainty. We've got $5 million in our secondary reserve. We have about $1 million that's assigned for other uses, and then available fund balance of $12 million. So the total fund balance is about $38 million. On the chart, you can see the bar with the gold diamonds. That is the desired reserve by year, and then the blue bars is what the actual fund balance was. So you can see we're maintaining reserves above the desired targets. So we're in good shape there. And we'll move on to Measure S a little bit. So Measure S is the 1-cent sales tax that was approved by Temecula voters in 2016. The revenue expenditures are accounted for in a separate fund for transparency purposes. And council created appropriation guidelines for Measure S. So the four main areas that Measure S is dedicated to are public safety, asset management, capital improvements, and community services. So in the chart below, you'll kind of see those on the left-hand side. So won't go into a lot of detail here, but the moral of this story is that the revenue is increasing at a gradual pace over the next few years. We have a significant portion of expenditures this fiscal year for capital improvements, and those are expenditures that have carried over from year to year for ongoing projects. We're hoping that those projects will be finished soon, so there's a large portion of that funding in this current fiscal year. So you'll see the total expenditures for this fiscal year is about $75 million. And another important thing to point out is the ending fund balance stays positive, $14 million currently for this fiscal year. So for the Measure S budget projections, we are forecasting that Measure S, because it is sales tax, we're forecasting that it's down 1.5 million, but that has been offset by higher interest earnings. The expenditures are mostly allocated to CIP projects for 24-25. So if you look at the table or the chart down below, you'll see that big green bar standing up tall there. Those are CIP projects that have been carried over from year to year. And then by 28-29, half of Measure S funding will go towards public safety, and the other half will go towards TCSD. So the right-hand side of that chart down at the bottom shows that those two areas will take up most of the Measure S revenue, which will not leave much for CIP projects, which that's currently what it's spent on quite a bit. Okay, now onto your part, TCSD projections. So as you know, TCSD is a separate fund that accounts for the activities, events, programs offered by the Temecula Community Services District. Primary funding sources are program revenues, so that's what we charge participants for the different programs. There's the Measure C, which is the parcel tax, and then there's Measure S, which is the sales tax, which we've discussed. The 24-25 budget is $21.2 million. That's spread across 13 divisions, and the chart shows the breakdown of the expenditures by each of those divisions. And now I'm going to turn over to Paula to discuss the capital improvement program. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Paula Majors, and I am the Fiscal Services Manager here at the City of Temecula. The Capital Improvement Program is a comprehensive 5-year plan that addresses the capital needs of the city. Capital projects are those that cost over $30,000, have long-term lifespans, and are generally non-reoccurring. The fiscal years 25 through 29 CIP is the largest in the city's history, with $927 million in total cost and 110 projects included in the adopted budget. The city has identified funding sources totaling $629 million, or 68% of the total CIP. The remaining $298 million is unspecified at this time. However, before construction begins on any of these projects, a funding source will be identified. In our mid-year budget process, one additional project CIP was added. It's the traffic signal fiber optic extension. This evening, we would like to highlight a few of our CIP projects. French Valley Parkway Phase 2. This $138.7 million project is currently under construction. The project will alleviate the bottleneck on northbound I-15 between Winchester Road and the I-215 junction. This project has stayed on budget and on schedule with an estimated completion of May of 2025. The pickleball courts located at Ronald Reagan Sports Park. This $3.7 million project is a 17-court destination for tournaments and recreation. The pickleball court celebrated its grand opening earlier this month. Actually, I think it was in February, sorry. Construction on the I-15 Congestion Relief Project, a $9.2 million auxiliary lane between Temecula Parkway and Rancho California Road, was completed in October 2024. Additionally, Caltrans will be working on a $56 million project to add the remaining 3 auxiliary lanes. The dog park renovation, a $1.2 million project located at Mike Nagar Park, has been completed. The ribbon cutting was held on July 30th, 2024. I'd like to turn the presentation over to our Director of Finance, Jennifer Hennessy, who will discuss the city's debt liability paydown status. Yes. Yes. That's not our experience at this point. We are billing our federal projects, namely French Valley, on a monthly basis, and we're not seeing a slowdown. We haven't been notified of a slowdown. So, no, I think at this point, there's no knowledge of that. Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, in fact, to follow up on the federal grant concerns, we've had this kind of yo-yo effect with the administration on taking something away, then it comes back and taking something away. So we're kind of taking a wait-and-see approach before we modify any of our budgets related to the federal grants. Yeah.
Well, it seems like the majority of the rest of the budget is all locally generated funds, so, sales tax, property tax, that type of thing. And when you get to those CIP projects, it seems to be mostly outside money that's funding those projects.
It's heavily reliant on federal grants, as well as our Community Development Block Grant Program, which is CDBG, and that's funded through HUD. So that's another one that we've heard, we might see reductions to, but nothing yet is definitive. So we're not really going to factor that into our budgets until we know something's more definitive on that front.
Thank you.
All righty, so our debt liability paydown strategy. So I think most of you are familiar, but back in December of 2022, our council adopted a new policy to have a target date of 7 years to become debt-free. And what that includes is the complete payoff of any facility loans we have, fully fund our pension liability as well as our retiree health liability. Our facility loans, we had 2 of them. One was on the Civic Center, this facility here, and the other's on the Margarita Recreation Center. The Civic Center loan outstanding balance was $12.6 million, and that was paid off shortly after the adoption of the paydown strategy, as well as the MRC loan. That was a little over $5 million, and that was also paid off back in 22-23. And we paid $7.25 million towards our pension liability. And then the next fiscal year, 23-24, we completely paid off what's called OPEB, which is Other Post-Employment Benefits. That's just a big, long, fancy phrase for retiree health. But we paid that in full, so those employees that were eligible to receive retiree health, that is fully funded at this point in time, so that's really good news. And then we've continued to pay down more of our pension liability. Our pension liability is obviously the biggest one, right now standing a little over $60 million. But we are on track to pay everything down within 7 years. Once we do that, we'll see an estimated just under $6 million a year in annual savings in our general fund. But in addition to that, we will have saved over $30 million in interest from the pension liability alone, and then a little over $3 million in our facility loans. And the funding sources, so back when Ward was showing the slides of fund balance, you could see that it increased quite a bit up until 22, and then it started to decrease as you move forward on the chart. And that was very intentional because we were utilizing that surplus fund balance to help with this pay down strategy. We also set up, back in about 2017 or 18, we set up a trust for the pension through a company called PARS. And that money has been accruing interest since 17, 18. And it's the primary funding source to pay down the pension liability. So we've programmed that in, about 19 million of that money. And then the remaining is coming from available fund balance from the general fund. So a couple of slides that illustrates the benefit of this pay down. This relates to our pension liability. So the green line that kind of does that and goes down, that's our actual payments. So in 22-23, we paid about 11 million towards that unfunded liability. Our required payment is where that orange line starts, so just under 4 million. That was our required payment according to CalPERS. So we paid in excess of that, and the excess is, the acronym is ADP, or Additional Discretionary Payments. So that's what we have been paying over and above the orange line in order to, by 29-30, have our payment go down to zero. Now, if we did not accelerate these payments and we were just following what PERS is requiring us to pay, in 29-30, our annual payment would be 6.9 million, and it would slowly taper down over the next 20-30 years, whereas what we're trying to do is expedite that so that we're fully funded by 29-30, and then we can more easily react to a negative market condition with CalPERS. The liability amount changes every year depending on what happens with the investment market, a bunch of different actuarial valuations that go into calculating what we owe per year. But the majority of the unfunded liability, once that's paid down, then we can just address those smaller liability changes each year from that point forward. Oh, I guess I only had one slide there. Any questions on that debt liability pay down? I know it's very technical and maybe not the most exciting thing, especially for the TCSD Commission, but we get excited about it.
I just have a quick question. It is great to see that the city is maintaining a fiscal surplus, especially with the state's economy. It's really nice to see a healthy reserve. Once the debt to liability pay down is complete, where does that surplus go, or how does it go into the general fund, or how do you allocate what buckets that money goes into?
Great question. It is in the general fund, so it will go towards other operating expenditures in the general fund, and we have that sort of built into our 5-year projection. In the general fund, as you saw earlier, a little over half of it is spent on public safety. So, just extrapolating that out, the majority of it will go towards public safety. Yep. Any other questions on that?
Not on that specifically, but I was curious about the projected significant decrease in the CIP projects, and were there some reasons behind that? Is it just we're going to be built out? The money was being directed, I know, to community services in one other area, which, those are needs as well, but.
That, so a couple of things there. That's just one funding source of our CIP, so that was Measure S, which in current day, that's a big chunk of funding sources that are available for the CIP. But that does not reduce or impact federal grants or state grants or anything like that that will continue to come in to fund future CIP projects. So it's just those projects that are funded with Measure S. But we continue to receive, there's a few other funding sources that are annual that are used for the CIP, which would be mostly related to road maintenance. So we have Measure A, which is another sales tax, but that's dedicated towards road maintenance. We have we get another 3 to 4 million a year in what's called RMRA, which is road maintenance, something. So we do still have some ongoing funding sources, but Measure S is slowly but surely getting diverted towards operations.
Y'all should be, I think a lot of cities would switch places with you in a heartbeat. And you guys have done a great job managing this budget to be running a surplus and have a reserve plus being able to pay down debt. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay,
Can you go back to that slide with the Measure S?
the Measure S?
Yes.
This one or the one with the chart?
With the chart. So I saw a big difference of the 2020, 23, 24 and the 24, 25.
What is the difference?
With the CIP backlog, is that what you just explained?
Yeah, so what we do when we budget our CIP funding, I'm gonna cough. So the CIP is a 5-year window. Public Works will budget a project in year 1, let's say the MRC, when we were building the MRC. That entire, I'll say $10 million was budgeted to be spent in years 1 and 2. Whatever isn't spent will roll forward until the project's done. So we've had, about $43 million of projects that have been budgeted since 2017 that it keeps rolling forward until those projects are done. So I just termed it as backlog, but it's really rollover monies from monies that have been appropriated towards specific projects, but those projects have not yet come to completion. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. Another one is, where does the homeless outreach, the budget come from?
That is in TCSD. So it is one of the 13 divisions, second to the last on the chart there. The funding, again, for TCSD, the funding comes predominantly from Measure S, but also from Measure C, which is the $74 parcel tax on all residents, and then any program revenues. Homeless outreach doesn't really generate any program revenues, but other like contract classes, the theater, aquatics, those generate program revenues. So for homeless outreach, it's predominantly Measure S.
Thank you.
Okay.
How is library services funded?
So library services, it's funded 2 different ways. This county collects a library tax through everybody pays their property taxes and a small portion goes towards the library. And my understanding is that money, it goes to the county, and then they utilize that to fund what's called the Grace Melman Library. And then using Measure C and Measure S, and then library revenues, we fund our library, the one on Pava Road.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
We have one more portion of the presentation to go. This is, so I know many of you that have been around for a long time are aware that every few years or so we do a community satisfaction survey. Our city manager's office personnel are starting to work with a consultant to get another survey going over the next couple of months. So we thought it would be fun to kind of give you all a preview of that survey. And we will be doing a real-time survey of you all. But to give you a little bit of history, so we conduct these statistically valid surveys. So it's an outside surveying company that does this with our population. And over the last several years, we've done the surveys that are here noted starting back in 2001, and then 2021 was the latest one. But we've historically received very high satisfaction results from the surveys, ranging in the low 90s for the first 4, and then the survey that was conducted in 2021 did drop to 83%. We're satisfied. However, there's a COVID factor we put on that one because not too many people were satisfied on anything in 2021. But we're gearing up to do another survey of the citizens here within the next few months. So what we've done is created a subset of that, a very small, short one that we thought we'd have some fun with you all. And if you can either scan the QR code and do this on your phone, or I believe there's a link. Okay, so if you press the PC button and click over, we've preloaded it for you on your computers.
And the PC button next to the video button is right below your microphone.
Can you all see the survey on your screen? Oops, someone did.
I did switch over, but it did not appear.
If you can't get it on the screen, you can maybe do the QR code with your phone if you wanted to.
While we're waiting, I'm willing to accept gratuities for my vote.
Okay. All right, so question number 1 is, how would you rate the overall quality of life in Temecula? So far, we have 2 respondents that have rated it 100% or more. And staff, you guys are welcome to chime in as well. This isn't statistically valid or anything, it's just for fun. So it looks like it's a unanimous that we provide excellent quality of life. Very good. Okay, next question. Generally speaking, how satisfied or dissatisfied are you with the job the city is doing in providing services to the community? So historically, on the last survey that was done, on this one, well, this one was the 83%. Looks like we're hitting 100% on this one as well. That's good. Okay, next question. What are the names of 1 or 2 stores you would most like to see come to the city of Temecula? And this, you just type in the name of the store or stores. I'm not sure I know what that is. REI. That came up in the last commission too. Oh, Spaghetti Factory. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah, that'd be nice. Sales tax wise, that'd be really nice. All right, very good. Oh, there's some more. So the last time this survey was asked, some of the high responses were Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, which we got, IKEA, Bed Bath & Beyond, At Home, and Crate & Barrel. So we've gotten quite a few of them that came in last time. REI was listed last time. Cheesecake Factory, Texas Roadhouse, those are coming or are here. So yeah, kind of fun. All right, thank you. Let's see, next question is, generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the city's efforts to improve traffic circulation by improving roads and intersections, implementing traffic calming measures, timing traffic signals, and other measures? Okay. Oh, it's shrinking. All right, so last time around, there was about 61% were somewhat or very satisfied, 25% were dissatisfied, and 11% were very dissatisfied. So we've improved since the last one, so that's good news. Okay, next one. What are the one or two things that you that you like most about living in the city of Temecula? All right, who put that one? Great. This is definitely the TCSD Commission. All right, so last time around, the survey results were, at the top was public safety and the low crime rate, proximity to shopping and services in the city, cleanliness of the city, family, friends, and neighbors, and small town feel and community involvement. So pretty close. All right, we only got a couple more here. So on the converse side, what are one or two things you like least about living in the city of Temecula? Oh, well, I'm not touching that top one. Yeah, but definitely traffic ranks up there from the last time around. Hopefully all the projects we're doing is going to help the I-15 though. All right. Okay, I think you guys will like this one. If you could attend one signature event each year, which one would it be? You don't get to vote, Dawn. You're like, I attend every single one of them. Christmas parade is the winner. Oh. All right. Is that what you expected? Yeah? Okay. All right, very good. I think that is it. So thanks for participating. Hopefully that was a little bit of fun. Gives us a little insight. You may or may not be one of the people called for the next survey, but if you are, you got a little sneak peek. So
Is the survey just going to be done through phone, or I guess how are you promoting it and how are you selecting your sample?
yeah, I am not the expert there. I did ask if they're doing it more than just, in the past they've been landlines, and now with, so few people have landlines, I know they've expanded their outreach to include cell phones and texting and things like that. So as far as how to make it statistically valid, that's what the consultant is an expert in, so they'll handle all of that. And then we've utilized the same consultant year after year, so they'll do a lot of comparisons to compare it to how the respondents, were in the last survey or the ones before that, so, yeah. So that is it from us. Any other questions? No? All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Jennifer Hennessy and your team for coming out here and give us an update and have us do the survey. Thank you, and you're excused. And now we are going to move on to the next item, that's presentations from Superintendent Stacy Fox. You're going to give us an update on parks.
Hi, good evening, Commission. I'm Stacy Fox. I'm Maintenance Superintendent in Parks and our Public Works Department. And tonight I'll give you a brief overview of our Adopt a Park program. So the Adopt a Park program was approved by City Council back in 2018. The purpose of the program was to create projects to beautify our parks, trails, and open spaces. It was a way to get public education and awareness out and for our parks and recreation. And it was a way to get our community and corporate support for park-related capital improvement programs. So the Adopt a Park program has different tiers. Primarily, these participation tiers are custodial duties, like picking up trash and removing graffiti and minor maintenance work. Beautification projects, which could entail like butterfly gardens, tree planting, mulch spreading, and painting projects. And then as well as amenity donations, which can be like donating a park bench or a bike rack. So these eligible activities, they're required to report suspicious and illegal activities on parks. So our Adopt a program participants are like our second set of eyes and ears out there in our parks. Activities include, facility, landscape, and equipment upkeep, and some maintenance, cleaning and painting, tree planting, and as it said, donations. So primarily we see a lot of trash cleanup and fence painting projects. So the program requirements are the eligibility, you gotta be business-based or operating in the city of Temecula, nonprofit groups, families, schools, government, and faith-based groups. So the adopter also must be 18 years of age, and they must attend an orientation with the Community Services and Public Works Department prior to performing any duties. This is just to get kind of the scope of work outlined and kind of the parameters of what the areas they're going to work in. And then we require them, their main responsibility is to provide the service at least once a month. They got to track the monthly hours and request approval from us for any special project that's outside of their original scope that they signed up for. And then as well as notifying staff of any safety concern. So currently we have 16 parks adopted. We review our park adoptions annually, so they adopt it for 1 year, and at that end of 1 year, we reach out to each adopter and make sure they want to continue the program, or if they opted out, then we'll make that park available to the next adopter. Like I said, these adopting groups are families, businesses, and nonprofits. And then the service projects, primarily we see a lot of trail cleanup, fence painting, butterfly gardens. We have a few of those that went in over the years, some native plant gardens, tree planting, and mulch spreading. The Adopt a Park application's available online for the public, and as well as we have those participants that don't want to commit to that whole year, they can do one like volunteer project. So we do a lot of those one-case projects throughout our parks. And then just a few park updates of some projects that we are completing here. First one is Mike and the Gar Community Dog Park. We recently added some agility equipment for our four-legged friends. So the large and the small dog pens have some agility equipment, which includes like ramps and teeter-totters and tunnels and stuff for the dogs to go through. And actually that project finished up today. So, as well as the spring season coming in the summer, we got the Eagle Soar splash pad. We're getting ready to open that for the season. We are currently working on replacing the pumps that make the water spray everywhere. And we plan on opening that here later in March as the weather improves. Also at Meadows Park, we are replacing the safety surfacing. It has reached its life and it's deteriorated, So we will be closing that playground area, fencing it off for about 2 weeks in late March to replace the safety surfacing, as well as a couple other play components in that playground. So it's much needed, and it'll be a nice upgrade to that amenity. And then I'm also working on the Ronald Reagan Sports Park Playground Replacement Project. So we're looking at replacing both of the existing play structures that are near the pump track and skate park area. And we're working with, we have 4 vendors, playground vendors that we're working with on getting some concept designs and theme designs that we'll be able to present to subcommittee and for approval, and hopefully get that project underway here in the next couple of months. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stacy. Now I'm going to go from Commissioner Kingsburg.
Thank you, Dr. Hawks. Thank you, Stacy, for the update. Definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate all our parks in Temecula. It was interesting to learn about the Adopt a Park program. It's something I wasn't familiar with, and so I did have something that kind of arose from that. And I guess I trust it's probably on the city website, but my thought was, okay, how is that promoted? And then do we work with or collaborate, for example, with the school district? Again, I'm coming from my own professional background here, just thinking that you know, there have to be an array of student groups that might get involved, and certainly students need those community service hours, you know, as a graduation requirement. So I'm kind of curious about that. And then finally, like the one-day projects, I was curious if, does the city provide a list of potential one-day projects, or does a group initiate and say, hey, we'd like to add a park bench or paint the park bench at this park? So I know that's a lot altogether, but I want to put it all out there.
Oh,
So-
sure, no problem, yeah. So we do, the Adopt a Park application and the information, the overview is available on our website, and we also do social media push a couple times a year, I believe, to get it out there to the public. Also, we get people calling us all the time that they want to volunteer for our city. They want to do something good for our city, and so we kind of steer them to the Adopt a Park program if they want to do something more regularly for that year, or if they just want to do the one-off project. So, as for the schools, we do get a lot of clubs that will adopt a park for the year. I don't know the names of all the clubs, but there was a few parks that club donated it or adopted for the year to do trash programs and cleanup to get their community services hours that are required. So that's definitely available for schools. We just do require that the adopter has to be 18 years of age. So sometimes it'll be a parent will be the kind of the liaison for the group. And then for the one-off volunteer projects, so typically they reach out to us. Sometimes they ask, oh, what can we do for you? And maybe we'll steer them towards fence painting or trash cleanup or something like that. But a lot of times they'll come to us with a project in mind. For example, we work with Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts for their different scout projects. So they may present, like, we want to do a butterfly garden. So then we'll work with them on, I'll have them do the design and kind of the layout, and we'll go back and forth and all approve the different plant materials. And then we'll also, the city or the Parks Department, we will contribute some items to their project just to make sure it all gets kind of done right. So like I'll donate mulch for them to spread around their butterfly plants, and they'll get donations of plant material to do the plantings. So.
No, thanks for that. That makes sense. It needs to be collaborative, and certainly you want to have some input and guidance on what is needed and what would go together and you know, nicely.
Yeah, it's a bit of a process back and forth just to make sure that, you know, we as a city, we get something that's safe and that's going to last for a while.
Commissioner DeGrave?
Yes, with the 16 parks, how in demand is it to adopt a park? Or do all our parks have they been adopted, or what does that look like?
So, yeah, not all of them have been adopted, and some of our park adoptions are for just like a particular area within the park. So, like I've had the Temecula Valley Garden Club. They did a garden at Sam Hicks Park, so they just adopted that garden project that they worked on. So the rest of the park is still available to adopt. And same with our trail systems. We got miles and miles of trails, so we kind of adopt out segments of that to different groups that want to adopt those sections. So not all of our parks are adopted yet, but we hope to get more adoptions going. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Castro?
Thank you. Thank you for the briefing. I brought this up last month, I think, at the Summersbend Sports Park on the south side of the soccer fields. There's a fence there to keep the balls from going down into the creek bed, and it's not high enough, and there's constantly people down in that creek bed looking for soccer balls. Has there been a look at trying to raise the fence, even one more section of fencing?
Yeah, I've actually been working with one of our on-call vendors, a fence company, on getting pricing to do that. And
Okay.
I have the pricing, but can't fund it for this fiscal year, but we are planning on doing that to secure,
Okay.
well, expand
No, I
that.
mean, I just wanted to see if anybody was looking at it, because I think we didn't know last time, and I think originally it was back to Woodside when they were building it, asking them to put it higher, and they didn't want to.
We asked the developer to do that, but they did put a fence along Butterfield Stage to keep the balls from going out onto Butterfield Stage Road, which
Yeah.
is very dangerous.
Yeah,
Like balls going across the soccer field.
yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely needs to be more fencing extended on that,
yeah.
that south end.
Mhm. On the, with the Adopt a Park program, if you were doing a donation for a bike rack, does somebody just bring you a bike rack, or they just give you money?
They could either way. They can give us a cash donation, or or pay for it, or basically I'll give them like a spec or a standard of
Yeah.
a bike rack that we want. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I have a question about the dog park. Can you give us an update about the usage of the dog park?
The new Mike Nagar dog
Yes.
park? It's definitely not as busy as the Red Hawk Community Dog Park. That one sees a lot of people, but it's getting its regular users. Every time I'm there, there's usually somebody, one or two people in the pens utilizing the small dog and large dog pens. And in the interim, we still have the old dog park that's on the upper section near the apartments, back of the park. I don't know if you're aware, there is another dog park back there. But eventually that one will be either converted to a parking lot or something else in the future, so.
Thank you. Thank you for making our parks beautiful, and I hope all the parks are adopted at some point.
Yes,
That seems lots of work.
yeah,
And thank you for coming here tonight.
no problem, thank you.
And now we're going to move on to the next agenda item is divisions report. First, we have Isabel Morales from Special Events, Sister City, and the Public Art to give us a
Chairperson, if I
report.
could interject, we just
Oh.
have to do public comments first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Do we have any public comments?
An emailed public comment was received, and we'll make that a part of the record, but we have no additional public comments.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now we'll move on to the division report. Isabel.
Good evening, Commissioners. So a few months back, a few of you are very familiar with me. I was your former secretary, and I'd just like to introduce myself to our new Commissioner, LaSalle DeGraves. So welcome, and I've been working in the city for about 9 years now. I started in arts and culture, and I was at the museum for a little bit of time, had a little COVID break, came back, and then I stuck in TCSD as assistant to the director, but then
Now I'm back in arts and culture because I can't get enough of the arts and the artists. So that's where I'm at, arts and culture and special events. So without further ado, I'll begin with our recap with the community room decoration for former library manager Rosie Vanderhoek on February 5th. We had 70 attendees for the celebration, along with many wonderful remarks from city council and executive staff. And then on Friday, February 7th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., we hosted a gallery at the Merck Reception for local artist Roxy Rich. The evening was enjoyed by approximately 40 guests from the public and friends of the artists. Refreshments were served and accompanied by live music in the cabaret and a moment of recognition for the artist. On Saturday, February 15th, we held the highly anticipated grand opening of the brand new pickleball complex at the Ronald Reagan Sports Park. There were 300 attendees. The event featured a special skill demonstration from a pickleball instructor, as well as some refreshments and pickleball-themed giveaways. Then on February 15th through the 19th, my supervisor, Tracy Tominez, and I attended the Municipal Special Events Association Summit in Savannah, Georgia. The conference provided us with an awesome opportunity to connect and engage with other municipal staff on the East Coast to learn about the dynamic and functionality of special events in various cities. Our seminars included event safety, event management, and collaboration with police, fire, and colleagues from other departments. So, in closing, I'd like to thank all of our council and commission for your attendance and support this past month at our events. Upcoming for March includes we had the March 7th Art Walk Gallery Reception, and this one was held indoors due to the rain. We had artists eager to display their work, so I really wanted to support them by still providing them with a space. Then March 12th, we have a mural recognition coming up at the Sam Hicks Monument Park. We're keeping tabs on the weather as we see that our forecast is a little rainy, so we'll keep you updated on any changes of the event, and so stay tuned. And then on March 19th, we're expecting to have our splash pad grand opening at Ronald J. Parks Community Recreation Center. So we're looking forward to that as well. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Isabel. And now I'm going to start with Commissioner Castro.
Thank you for the report. Did you go to Vinnie Van Gogh's in Savannah?
I didn't get the chance,
No,
no, unfortunately.
Very famous pizza place.
Yeah, oh. Yeah, we had gone to another one. I think it was called Graffito's. So that one was pretty good, but a lot of the places we were looking at were closed on certain days, so we kind of missed out, but I'll keep
Thank you for the
tabs.
report.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now we will go to Commissioner DeGuave.
I just wanted to know on the museum attendance, because it continues to increase, I just want to applaud you. I'm not sure if this was part of this report specifically. Is that on the next one? Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll wait for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Kingsburg.
Well, thank you for the update, Isabel.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you and Tracy got that conference. I think that's great. I think it's really important that we get out and see what's going on. And I was going to comment on the from the email report. I saw we had a group go to the Surf and Turf conference. But that being said, I saw that was in Fontana. I think I'd much rather go to Savannah, Georgia. It sounds like Commissioner Castro has blazed a trail there, perhaps in the past. So I'll have to get there and catch up with him at some point. But that is on my short list.
Thank you. And I have a question about the location of the artwork. Is that changed due to rain or the weather?
Yes, for
Okay.
the art walk. The lot gets a little muddy in the rainy season, so.
And how many attendants?
So there were a total of 250
Oh.
for that one. So yeah, it was exciting despite the rain. That's actually really good attendance for that event.
Yes. So they come here and then they walk over to Merck?
Yes, they did their art walk and they went
Okay.
from the Merc and over here to the conference center or vice versa.
Okay, that's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
And also, it's really heartwarming to see that Rosie got honored during that event.
Yes.
So thank you for honoring her with that room dedicated to her.
Of course.
And now we will move on to Juliana.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Juliana Hansen. I'm a community service specialist at the Temecula Valley Museum for Commissioner DeGrave. I've been at the city for 3 years now. I have 2 degrees in history. Museum is where I live. I love it there. And I'm happy to be presenting this today. We were very busy in February at the museum. Our newest traveling exhibit, I Am a Man, Photographs of the Civil Rights Movement, was installed, and it's currently on display until the end of this month, March. This exhibit features amateur photographs taken throughout the civil rights movement that creates a powerful narrative of the history of the movement, what people went through, and the overall impact. Along with this exhibit, we invited CSU San Marcos instructor and PhD student in African American Studies, Joy Miller, to come to the museum and give a gallery talk. During her talk, Joy Miller educated us further on the American Civil Rights Movement, which led to a very insightful discussion with some of the attendees detailing their own experiences living through that time period in the different parts of the U.S. In February, we also held our first Culture Days of the year. In February, we celebrated Mongolia. We had approximately 300 people attend. We showcased Mongolian history, traditions, cuisine, music, and art through in-house made informational panels. Along with that, guests were able to sip milk tea, taste borstog, which is a Mongolian fried dough similar to donuts, and participate in 2 art classes, one hosted by TVM staff and another hosted by Bigfoot art classes. Germany was just celebrated this past Saturday, went very well with approximately 350 guests, and thank you to those who attended. On February 26th, the museum was visited by the great-great-granddaughter of Walter Vail of Vail Ranch fame. Amber Vail was overjoyed to view photographs detailing the history of her family and their impact on Temecula, and is super excited to return to look through the vast collection of materials in the museum's archive that pertain to Vail Ranch. The museum also had 2 different outreach opportunities in February. Staff member and historian Mindy Johnson visited Gulf Knolls and the Groundwater Management Districts Association Conference at Temecula Creek Inn, and presented the history of Temecula at both gatherings. Her presentation was met very positively by both groups. Lastly, some staff also went to a conference. We went to the California Association of Museums conference in San Francisco. We learned a bunch about programming opportunities and more methods of organization and managing our archives, and we're very excited to work on implementing those things that we learned. The museum has seen a 31.6% increase in visitors since last year. We're super happy about that. We have more events planned for March, as well as a new traveling exhibit to be installed at the end of this month, and we hope to see you and even more guests there. That concludes our entire report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. And now we will ask Commissioner DeGrave to ask her question.
Okay, now I can ask the question. I actually had the pleasure of stopping by the museum last week, so I did get to see I Am a Man, and it was a really, really robust exhibit with so many pictures that were, I loved seeing that it wasn't just from one artist, it was a collective curation there. I had a question regarding the curator report. Is there any way to be able to see the feedback that came from Amber Vail, or like, what do you do with that information?
So our archivist, Daniel Morales, he gets all the emails for that. So if you wanted to see any feedback, I'm not sure if it was written feedback that she gave us, most likely verbal since she came to the museum herself. But if you wanted something, I can attempt to get something for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the impact report, how do you What is considered impact? Is it every every visitor counts as one, or is it a combination of social media and other engagement?
I believe from that was just our door numbers. So we have a counter on our door that we count throughout the month. So that's, just in-person impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kingsburg?
Thank you, Giuliana, for the update. Good to see you again. Just to piggyback what Commissioner DeGrave said, I was able to stop by that museum and see the I Am a Man as well, and yeah, very, very powerful. Lots of detail, getting into James Meredith's efforts to get into the University of Mississippi, and the sanitation workers strike in Memphis, and the role of Dr. King. And I had visited Memphis last spring for the first time, so it was really neat to revisit that, even though it's strong subject matter. And then I said it last month, I'm going to say it again because your manager's out there in the audience tonight, and I'll say it to you as well, Giuliana. Great job on that first Culture Day. I wasn't able to get over last weekend, but I'll look forward to that update. But I thought it ended up being a really good turnout. At first it was kind of quiet, but I'll tell you, families really enjoyed the day. It was a beautiful day, getting over there and enjoying that atmosphere and taking part in the activities. So I think these Culture Days are really, really positive events for the community. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now Commissioner Castro?
Hello, nice
Hi.
seeing you again. I want to echo what Jeff said. The Culture Days seem to be a big hit with people, and they always seem very anxious to try the food and see the social activities. Congratulations on a successful month over at the museum. You guys are doing a great job, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Can you give us elaborate a little more on the Mindy's two presentations? Is it about the museum, or is it about Temecula in general?
It was about the history of Temecula. So we have several presentations that we can present to groups that request it. So these two groups specifically requested for a history of Temecula. We have our 3 Temeculas presentation that Mindy did for both of these.
Very nice. Thank you. And I'm really happy to see the museum's numbers. It just seems like every month it's keep going up, and the culture events are a big hit. So we're looking forward to seeing more visits from our residents and from visitors. Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the consent calendars. And now we have one item left, that's approve the action minutes of February 10th, 2025. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Madam Secretary, can you do a vote call?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Castro,
Aye.
Commissioner DeGrave,
Aye.
Commissioner Kingsburg,
Aye.
and Chairperson Hawks.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous with 1 absent, and the motion is approved.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments? Madam Secretary,
No, we do not.
thank you. Now we'll move on to the director's report. Today we have our Assistant Director, Ms. Dawn. Can you give us a report?
Just a reminder, tomorrow night at the city council meeting, the special events team will be giving a presentation, the same one they gave to you last month, about special events and the road closures. So hopefully we will get some feedback from council and direction on how the events are going to go the rest of the year. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. And now we'll go to the commissioner's report. We'll start with Commissioner Castro.
I was going to ask you, what was the take from the surf and turf or surf and conference?
It was a very well-attended conference. I know that aquatics came back with a lot of accolades and awards. I did not get a sense of whether they preferred the surf or the turf, but I'm sure they were treated very well. But our social media team presented, and they are just well respected in the region. After their summit they had here, they've spoken also at the CPRS for a couple times. They've done a webinar, so they're in high demand.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kingsburg?
Thank you, Chair Hawks. Yeah, as far as last month goes, the only other event I was able to attend was the senior event, the Sweetheart Luncheon, for Valentine's Day. And again, it's been a couple of months since I've been over there, but I just want to give our entire staff, the Senior Center, a lot of credit. They just do a great job creating a welcoming environment that really builds a sense of community. And I was going to comment, so I'll do it here, that as far as what we received, the broader report from Community Services, in that report, it caught my attention of all the different things that are made available to seniors, throughout the week. I mean, there were like 7, I won't read them all here, but there were like 7 different opportunities for seniors. I just think that's really important and wonderful. So as far as in the coming month, I do hope to get by the mural unveil Wednesday afternoon for at least a few moments, weather permitting, right, on Wednesday. I do intend to be back at the Senior Center on Thursday for their luncheon, and I understand the Down Syndrome Awareness Day. I hope to get by that on the 19th, and then I'm also going to add the splash pad to my agenda. We're going to hope for sunshine next week, right? Splash pad, could warm up a little bit. And then excited to see the great turnout in the pickleball facility. I had RSVP'd for that, but I had to cancel kind of for a good reason, a good situation. The basketball team at Great Oak that I coached this year, or helped coach, advanced in the playoffs. We had to travel that day, and we had to travel quite far, so we unfortunately left just as the pickleball event was starting, so I had to opt out of that. But that being said, I am signed up for a contract class next month on Wednesday nights, so I will be on the court quite a bit in the coming weeks. Get back out there and have some fun, so thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner DeGrave?
Yes, I was able to take part in a tour with Ginger last week. It was amazing after going to the dedication for Rosie, really understanding what Rosie's impact was on the library and just the future of our library, because we do have the busiest in the county. I didn't realize we have a genealogy room, and I thought that was so cool. I've been to the library many times, never noticed that, and just learning about the facilities that are available for rental, the children's programming, and they're just doing a great job there. So good job to our library staff. I was able to make it to the special games on Saturday, and I had a really lengthy conversation with a father that was there. He had an older special needs son, and he had never been to the event, and they just had such a great time. The Hawaiian dancers were so fun, and the kids went out there and participated in that, and Commissioners Castro and Hawks were there as well, so it was we missed you, Kingsburg, but I think you were just coming back from your trip. So it was just a really neat event. I had not been in the past. I will also add that I got to meet some of the staff that I hadn't met yet, Cece and her team that helps with the inclusive programming, and I'll echo what you shared. She was just telling me about all the programming that the seniors have available to them. I know Willa does a great job of giving us different events that are out there, but she was just, every day there's something for them to do, and I think that's so important for our senior members of the community to give them something to look forward to and a place to come and get whether it's a meal or an activity. So I echo what Commissioner Kingsburg just shared.
Thank you. I also attended the special games, and I spoke with some participants who really appreciated the events, including one who has been, it's opposite to what you said. That boy, he has been coming to the events for years, and they really appreciate it. And Yvette and her team did an amazing job organizing the event. I also had the honor to address the audience, and their enthusiasm was uplifting. And I'm very proud to see that our work continues to impact our community positively. And now I want to take the moment to thank our aquatics team for winning 2 awards. It's a great job. And also our social media team for surpassing the 1 million mark in February. So well done. And lastly, I also want to thank my fellow commissioners for your dedication and your involvement in our community and your thoughtful input tonight. And I want to thank the staff for all the behind-the-scene work to make this meeting run smoothly, especially Willa for answering our emails today, several emails coming, so thank you. And with that, I now adjourn the meeting. Good night.